Imagine walking into a small pharmacy in Atlanta, Georgia, in the year 1886. There are no giant supermarkets, no television commercials, no social media, and certainly no Coca-Cola bottles sitting in refrigerators around the world. But inside this pharmacy, something is about to happen that will eventually change the history of business, advertising, and popular culture. A pharmacist named John Stith Pemberton is experimenting with different ingredients. He wants to create something new, something people will enjoy, and perhaps something that can be sold as a medicinal drink. After a series of experiments, Pemberton creates a sweet, dark syrup. He takes his creation to Jacob's Pharmacy, where it is mixed with carbonated water. Customers taste it, and they like it. A new drink has been born. Its name? Coca-Cola. But at this moment, nobody knows that this strange, new drink will eventually become one of the most recognized brands on Earth. This is the story of how Coca-Cola went from a small pharmacy experiment to a global empire. And the story begins with a name. The name Coca-Cola came from two of the ingredients associated with the original formula, the coca leaf and the cola nut. Pemberton's bookkeeper, Frank M. Robinson, suggested the name Coca-Cola. Robinson also designed the famous flowing script logo. It was an incredibly simple idea. 2 words, a distinctive style of writing, and a product that tasted different from anything else. But creating a product is one thing. Creating a successful business is something completely different. And Pemberton struggled with the business side. His health was declining, and he was facing financial difficulties. As a result, he sold interests in the business. One of the people who became involved was a businessman named Asa Griggs Candler. And Candler understood something extremely important. The future of Coca-Cola wasn't only about the drink, it was about marketing. Candler helped transform Coca-Cola from a local product into a rapidly growing brand. He promoted the drink aggressively. Coupons encouraged people to try it. Advertisements appeared in newspapers. The Coca-Cola name was printed on calendars, signs, and promotional materials. The company was creating something bigger than a beverage. It was creating recognition. People began seeing the Coca-Cola name everywhere. And the more people saw it, the more familiar it became. This was one of the secrets behind Coca-Cola's success. The company wasn't simply asking people to buy a drink. It was making the name Coca-Cola part of everyday life. But there was still another problem. At the time, Coca-Cola was often served at soda fountains. The drink itself could be copied. Competitors could create similar beverages. So Coca-Cola needed something that would make its product instantly recognizable. The answer came in the form of a bottle. In the early 1900s, Coca-Cola sought a bottle design that would stand out from competitors. The goal was simple: create a bottle that people could recognize even without seeing the label. The result was the famous Contour bottle. Its curved shape became one of the most iconic package designs in history. Imagine seeing a bottle in the dark. You can't read the label, you can't see the logo, but you can feel the shape. You know what it is. Coca-Cola. That is powerful branding. But Coca-Cola's biggest weapon wasn't the bottle, it was advertising. Throughout the 20th century, Coca-Cola became exceptionally good at selling an emotion. Think about the advertisements. Friends sharing a drink, families together, people enjoying a sunny afternoon, music, sports, celebrations, Christmas. Coca-Cola increasingly connected itself with moments people wanted to remember. And this was a brilliant psychological shift. Instead of simply saying, "This drink tastes good," the brand communicated something much larger. Coca-Cola could be part of your happy moments. It could be something you shared with friends, something you enjoyed with a meal, something you reached for when you wanted refreshment. The product was a drink, but the brand was becoming an experience. And then came one of Coca-Cola's most famous cultural associations: Christmas. Coca-Cola did not invent Santa Claus, but its advertising helped establish and popularize a particular image of Santa Claus, especially through the work of illustrator Hedden Sundblom beginning in the 1930s. His illustrations showed Santa as warm, cheerful, friendly, and dressed in red. The images became hugely popular. Eventually, the Coca-Cola Santa became one of the most recognizable Christmas characters in advertising. The company had once again achieved something extraordinary. It had taken a product and connected it with an emotion. This time, the emotion was Christmas. But Coca-Cola's journey wasn't always smooth. In fact, one of its biggest moments came from one of the company's biggest mistakes. The year was 1985. Coca-Cola had been facing serious competition, particularly from Pepsi. Taste tests suggested that consumers sometimes preferred sweeter drinks. So Coca-Cola made a shocking decision. It changed its original formula. The new drink was called New Coke. From the company's perspective, the decision made sense. They had research. They had taste tests. They believed consumers would prefer the new flavor. But there was one thing the research didn't fully capture. People weren't only drinking Coca-Cola because of its taste. They had grown up with it. They associated it with family, restaurants, celebrations, and everyday life. Celebrations and everyday life. Coca-Cola wasn't just a flavor, it was familiar. When New Coke appeared, many customers were furious. Complaints flooded in. People demanded the return of the original formula. The reaction was so strong that Coca-Cola eventually reversed the decision. The original formula returned under the name Coca-Cola Classic. A successful brand can become part of people's lives. When that happens, changing the product can feel like changing part of their memories. After more than a century, Coca-Cola continued expanding around the world. Its red and white branding became familiar in countries across the planet. The company developed and acquired many different beverage brands and products, but Coca-Cola itself remained the center of the story. Think about how extraordinary that journey is. In 1886, one pharmacist in Atlanta was experimenting with a new drink. More than a century later, the name Coca-Cola is recognized around the world. The logo is instantly familiar. The bottle shape is famous. The sound of opening a Coke can is familiar. And the phrase, "have a Coke," needs almost no explanation. Different people have different memories. But the brand can sit quietly inside all of them. That is the power of branding. Coca-Cola began as a small experiment. It survived financial struggles. It grew through aggressive marketing. It created one of the world's most recognizable logos. It developed an iconic bottle. It became associated with happiness, friendship, and celebration. It became part of Christmas culture. And then, in 1985, it learned one of the hardest lessons a company can learn. Sometimes the thing customers value most isn't what you think you're selling. Coca-Cola thought it was selling a soft drink. Its customers showed the company that it was also selling familiarity, tradition, memories, and identity. Today, when someone says the word Coke, you probably don't need a description. You already have an image in your mind. Maybe it's a red can. Maybe it's a glass bottle. Maybe it's a cold drink with ice. Maybe it's a Coca-Cola advertisement. Or maybe it's simply a memory from your own life. And that is what makes the story of Coca-Cola so fascinating. It is the story of how a product can become a symbol, how a logo can become instantly recognizable, how advertising can shape culture, and how a simple beverage can become connected to memories shared by generations. From a small pharmacy in 1886 to a brand recognized across the world, the journey of Coca-Cola is one of the most remarkable stories in modern business. And the next time you see that familiar red label, remember, you're not just looking at a bottle of soda. You're looking at more than a century of history.